What is up, Nuggets? It's your boy, Killer Pizza, here with a brand new video for you rascals and rapscallions out there. As always, I hope everybody's having a great weekend, watching some spooky movies and whatnot. And before we hop into this video, there's just a handful of things I want to talk about and address. First and foremost, I want to wish all the mothers out there a very happy Mother's Day. Hopefully you have a great day. I see my mom earlier today, gave her some gifts and whatnot, including a DVD copy of Captain Ron. So the movie's clearly run in the family, and we are a Kurt Russell family. And also, I want to apologize about my voice. I'm a bit raspy. We had a good show last night up in West Branch, Michigan. Super Shogun Wrestling. If you haven't checked them out yet, it's one of the wrestling companies I work for. Check out their YouTube page, their Facebook page, if you want to see me get in the ring and do my thing. So my voice is a little hoarse. I want to apologize for that. I have recently returned to the dark side, turning on my tag team partner, Jeremiah J. Hughes. We had a fake funeral eulogy for him after I turned on him last night to open the show, and he jumped out of the casket, beat me up and everything, and then we had a bit of a Royal Rumble, the Ronin Rumble, and I was in there for about a half hour. So I am so tired from being on the road, and my voice is a bit hoarse from yelling and obviously the traditional karaoke on the way home. And lastly, I want to give an update on everything. I appreciate all the people that reached out and asked me about where the video was at last weekend. I try not to take too many breaks. I try to stay consistent with everything, but you guys probably know that I've been dealing with a bit of a foot injury. My ankle is sprained. It's good enough at this point that I was able to get in the ring last night, but I believe I'm going on my 5th week, and it's up to 6 weeks to heal. And it was a bit sore last week at work. Everything was fine on Saturday. I was going to record a video when I woke up last Sunday, but for some reason it was hurting so bad I could barely walk. I only got out of bed twice. It was so bad. So I didn't put out a video, but thank you to everybody that reached out and were asking about it. It's flattering to know that you guys, want to see these videos and everything. Because I'm just a regular dude just sitting here rambling on about movies. And with that being said, that's what I intend to do today. As you can see from the title, we are going to do 10 of my favorite comfort movies, Volume 2. I did one of these videos 8 months ago, and I thought it was pretty fun, so I thought, let's run it back. I could do multiples of these. If I knew I was going to do multiple versions, I probably would have done 5. But anyways, I got 10 movies here. Pretty much the criteria are movies you can toss on, if, say you're in a bad mood and you need to pick me up, or if you're in a good mood but you just don't really want to pay full attention to a movie, something that you can kind of have on in the background, or just a movie you love that, you can quote every line, makes you feel good, you know what I mean? Comfort movies. So I have 10 of them right here. And I will say off the bat, I need to get a copy of Friday. I was going to throw Friday on this list, and I realized I don't own a Blu-ray copy or a DVD copy of any of the Friday movies, which is crazy because I love those. I say that because we were quoting the movie last night in the locker room at the show. Because somebody lost their chain or whatever. Like, my grandma gave me that chain. But anyways, into my 10 comfort movies. The first one I want to talk about a little bit is Clue. Now, this is just a really fun movie. Going into this, you might question, like, how are they going to pull off, the mystery of the board game and everything? But this is one you don't have to... It's weird. It's a movie where, like, in theory, you want to question the mystery and who the killer is and everything, which I'm sure a lot of people do, but I never really do. I kind of just sit back and enjoy the ride, and I find this movie very just funny, atmospheric, and all the characters are a lot of fun, and it's just the right amount of hokiness and everything. And Tim Curry's performance, when he reenacts the entire movie at the end of the 3rd act within like 5 or 10 minutes, is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. If I could just watch that clip anytime, I love that so much. Tim Curry is clearly my favorite part in this movie, but and this 4K looks really good, by the way, too, if you haven't picked this up. So first one is Clue. Next up, and like I said, if you guys want to check out Volume 1, this is going to be Volume 2. A lot of these have similar, I can't think of the word right now, I'm tired, guys. God, I went to public schools, but there's common threads in some of these movies, because last time I talked about Dawn of the Dead. And that is one of my all-time favorite movies. And this one also is. I watched this a couple weeks ago on VHS, which was great, and that being Day of the Dead. It was a lot of fun on VHS. It kind of took me back to the days when I was renting it from the video store. I know, like, I think, like the rest of you guys, this really needs a 4K release, but apparently, like, the rights and everything are held up, or, like, the camera negatives or whatever aren't available or something. But when I watch this movie, it's like, I know a lot of people can consider this really boring, but I don't, because, you know, obviously a lot of zombie movies, the best part is, like, the situations that the people get in conflicts. And obviously the story of, like, Night of the Living Dead is when, you know, the outbreak of zombies start. Dawn of the Dead is, like, when everything's really starting to become chaotic. And Day of the Dead's, like, when almost all the population is overrun by the zombies. You know, a bunch of army, military guys down in this bunker with the scientists trying to find a cure for zombies and everything. But I just really love the characters. I love Captain Rhodes, even though he's a complete prick. I think this is one of the greatest scores in horror movie history. The score is almost a character in itself. And as the kids say, this movie is a vibe. And, you know, with Tom Savini's effects, you know, I love it. And like I said, where some people could find it boring or a slow burn, I could just sit back and let it roll through and just vibe with the movie. And just one I've always loved my entire life. Easily a top 10 horror movie for me, Day of the Dead. All right, on to a non-horror one. This kind of goes without saying. We have The Sandlot. This is one I watched all the time as a little kid. You know, it reminds me of my childhood a little bit. I was just reminiscing with a friend, actually, on the car ride last night about how our childhood was, you know, because you don't really see, at least where I'm from, like, kids outside playing and everything. And I grew up in, like, government housing in an apartment complex where there was, like, 50 to, like, 75 kids lived in the neighborhood. And you could go out anywhere and people were doing something, like, in the woods, building forts, at the dirt bike trails, fucking around, you know, playing basketball, playing football. You know, it's just a good time, and I really love the vibe with all these kids, and just a classic kids movie vibe from the 90s. Like this had, like, along with, like, the Mighty Ducks, or, like, Heavyweights and stuff like that. And just, you know, the story of the friendship and everybody getting along with Smalls, you know, kind of being a nervous kid and, you know, learning to make friends and everything. And, you know, Benny the Jet, obviously, great character. My cat is named after that character. But this is just a good movie. I think, you know, it goes without saying. This is one I watch every year in the summertime. One of my all-time favorites, actually, The Sandlot. All right, and we got another horror movie right here. This is Dolls. Now, funny that I own this copy because I know this one is out of print, and before the Empire set came out, this was a really expensive Blu-ray to get, and before I even knew what Scream Factory or anything was, when I started recollecting, like, a little over 5 years ago, this was one of the first movies I picked up. And this is just one, once again, like, me and my sister used to rent all the time as little kids. And, you know, a movie for, you know, under 90 minutes, it's a very easy watch, and it's one of the horror movies where, like, if you consider the dolls themselves, like, most of the times who's doing the killing in the horror movie is clearly the villain, but the dolls are not, and the old people that own the house are not. It's all the people involved in the story are complete pieces of shit, aside from a kid and the grown adult in there and everything. But this is like an atmospheric movie with that house that they're in. And just kind of like the best example, I think, of like a fairy tale kind of horror movie, in my opinion. I think that's the best way I could put it, like a storybook movie. It's kind of, I don't know. There's just something about this that has a lot of charm. I guarantee if you're watching this video, you love this movie, Dolls. And if you've never seen this and you're watching this video, I highly suggest checking it out. Very fun movie. I love it to death. And here's kind of a wild card right here I decided to throw in. Scary movie. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of, like, these parody, what do you call them, like the parody movies, you know, like Airplane and Spaceballs. I'm not really a big fan of them. But I love Scary Movie 1 and 2. I don't like Part 3. Not Another Teen Movie was pretty good in its day, but Scary Movie 1 and 2 are so fucking funny to me, man. The Wayans brothers and everything. It's hard for me to even say which one I prefer more. I might say Part 2. But these are just really funny movies. Everybody knows about these spoofs of horror movies at the time and everything. And I'll give you guys a little bit of a story right now, just for fun. So I was talking about my neighborhood, actually, you know, just a second ago. And I had a friend when growing up named Drew, and he was a heavyset kid, maybe a year or two younger than me, and he was like one of the biggest troublemakers, in the neighborhood, and at school for that matter, and always getting in a lot of trouble. He was literally like a real life version of Eric Cartman, and if you ever somehow seen this video, no offense, man, you would probably agree with me. But on his birthday one year, his mom's boyfriend took me and him and a bunch of the neighborhood kids to go see Scary Movie 2 in the theater. And that scene in the beginning when the priest is like hitting the flies on his face, like the parody of Exorcist, and then it cuts out and he's ripping ass, farting on the toilet. He says, "Oh, it must have been the enchiladas." Just like Eric Cartman laughing at the midget or the dwarf, little person. My friend Drew just starts belly laughing so hard, but it just doesn't stop. He laughs 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. He can't stop laughing at that scene. To the point somebody got the ushers to come into the theater and they were about to throw us out of the theater if he didn't stop laughing. That's how long he laughed for. This was like a 10-year-old kid, for context. But, this is another, these two in particular are so fun. I could throw them on anytime and just have a good time with them. So definitely comfort movies in that regard. I love them. Love them to death. Just can't get into part 3. That little part where the cop's hat keeps getting bigger, that's pretty fucking funny. But other than that, I don't really care for it. The next up we have The Fog. This is one I talk about all the time. John Carpenter's my favorite director of all time. Great cast, great story, great ghost story, atmosphere, vibes, soundtrack, off the charts. This is like the prime example of a movie I can throw on in the background if I'm doing something else and just look up every once in a while and just have it on and going. And, Tom Atkins is unbelievable in this, in anything he does for that regard. But, I mean, what else is there to say, John Carpenter? But I think this is one of the best atmosphere movies that he's done and just one of my favorites. Not many John Carpenter movies I don't like. Okay, so we have 4 more. No more horror movies in the stack. So speaking of Kurt Russell, this is one I grew up watching all the time. We had the VHS, the DVD. I'm talking Overboard. Very fun story. Kurt Russell's a carpenter who goes to build a shoe rack in Goldie Hawn's closet on her yacht. She's some rich, snobby lady, and she rips him off, and she ends up getting amnesia, falling off the boat, and he convinces her that she's his wife, to make her do chores around the house until the debt is paid off. I don't have to really explain this plot, even though I just did, but a really fun rom-com. You gotta love these two. Great chemistry, obviously. Kurt Russell, one of my favorite actors, and I just love this story. It's just very comforting and fun movie to watch. There's so many fun laughs and a lot of really good arcs with the characters, and just overall, you can't go wrong with Overboard. You can't go overboard with Overboard. Okay, then probably my favorite Stephen King movie, which could throw some people off because it's not a horror movie, but I'm sure I'm not the only one when I talk about this film. But Stand By Me, and just a story of the 4 kids back in the 60s that go to find this kid's dead body that got hit by a train, and it's just the best coming of age movie in my opinion. Amazing soundtrack. You could probably see a theme with some of these movies I grab in the stack that are kind of like reminiscent of like when you were a kid and everything. And I just love this coming of age movie. Incredible casting on this, and it's just got a really good, I keep saying vibe to it, but isn't that the whole point of this video? And this 4K, by the way, looks amazing, and I just love this movie. Stand By Me. Fun fact, I would say that is my favorite song of all time. Benny King's Stand By Me, if I had to pick. Otis Redding does a really good version as well. And speaking of good soundtracks, this might be the best soundtrack of all time. I still haven't opened this up when I upgraded to 4K, though I heard the 4K wasn't very good. Let me know if you guys have seen the 4K, but I'm talking Forrest Gump. We were actually talking about this at the show last night. We talk movies a lot in the locker room, and I mentioned a couple people, like, you like Forrest Gump. It came up for whatever reason. I think this is like one of the best cop-out movies if you had to tell someone, or at least for me, like, what's your favorite movie? I think a lot of people could be confident and say, like, oh, Forrest Gump's the best movie. Because, I mean, what a good performance in here by Tom Hanks. And what an incredible story. I heard the book is way more crazy. And also, what happened to that sequel that was supposed to come out, that none of us want to see. But just an incredible movie, incredible story. Like, all the settings of everything he does, it turns into a part war movie at one point. Him doing his football thing, running and everything across America and everything. I always talk about this one line in the movie when he gets done running. I joke around that, like, try this at your job sometime, guys. If you want to go home early, because I haven't tried it yet, the Forrest Gump technique. You think it would work if you just walked up to your boss and you said, I'm pretty tired. I think I'm gonna go home now, and then just start slowly walking towards the exit. I think it's crazy enough to work that they might just say, depend on your job, like, depend on how they're feeling, like, all right, go home. Or ironically enough, with a guy that had like some mental problems, that might be dumb enough to work. But like I said, this movie always makes me smile. Lieutenant Dan, you got new legs. Incredibly quotable, so much charm. It's got the best villain in a movie ever with Jenny, but amazing soundtrack, man. The most American soundtrack when it comes to like rock and roll and everything. And I love this movie. I don't got to gush anymore over it. I would imagine everybody loves Forrest Gump. I'd like to find somebody that doesn't. What's his name in that movie, that Seth Rogen movie? He says he doesn't like it. This is the end or whatever. Anyways, the last pick. I know this is getting a 4-grade upgrade. This is a movie that sits on top of my shelf. It was one of the first things I bought when I started recollecting this big old box set of The Goonies. Who the hell doesn't like The Goonies? I wore this tape out as a kid. Just a great adventure movie. The kids are gonna get, their neighborhood or subdivision's gonna get bought out. The the lake and everything, their property, and they go to try to find One-Eye Willie's treasure to try to fund the money to stop the purchase of the neighborhood or whatnot. Just a perfect coming of age adventure movie. Incredibly fun. What more is there to say about this? I heard they're making a sequel of this as well, but just a great movie. I wasn't gonna upgrade this either, but I think I probably would, because this would probably look pretty fucking good on 4K now that I think about it. But once again, these movies that deal with friends, kids with their friends, and in certain adventures and everything are fun to go back and watch for anybody. You just reminisce of your time as a kid and just all the adventures you would go on and everything. I think all of us as kids wanted to go on an adventure on a pirate ship and everything, and just very charming movie that stands the test of time. And this is one I can throw on anytime. Like, this is one for like a good example when I said, like, if you're not in a good mood and you need like a pick-me-up, like, throw on the fucking Goonies and just enjoy it. All-time classic, one of my all-time favorites. The Goonies. Hey, you guys, I like the Goonies. But anyways, that is my list. 10 movies, 10 comfort movies. Let me know in the comments below. I love interacting with you guys. That was the whole point of making this channel. Back when I started it, I didn't have many people around that wanted to talk movies all day long. So, I know I mentioned this a lot, like, what movie should I start with? What should this or that, in the comments. But I'm actually really interested to know what your guys' comfort movies are. Like, what's the one movie you can throw on that anytime you just love, that puts you in that mood and everything. But other than that, like I said, I hope everybody's having a good one today. It's a beautiful day in Michigan, but I'm going to stay inside all day and watch movies because I'm incredibly tired from the wrestling show last night. I actually have the complete series of Eastbound and Down coming today in the mail between 5 and 10. I've never seen the show before, just clips. I love Danny McBride, so once that shows up, I'm probably going to be binge watching that for the next couple days. But anyways, like I said, hopefully everybody's having a good one. Blood, guts, and gore. I will check you guys next time.